Part 2 analysis as part of the second half of how to write a marketing plan, the walkthrough of a plan. After the introduction, you are listening to a marketing management presentation, marketing plan, marketing planning. I'm the lecturer Thorsten Strauss. My information is in the back. So we are now at part 2 of 7, that is the analysis part. For those who have not watched the beginning, please review that. That means we're talking about the external analysis and the internal analysis and the SWOT, followed then by the strategic part, and we're getting right into it. I actually have here 3 parts, that is the external part, the internal part, SWOT and critical success factors, and what those are we get into in a bit. You see here the overview. We're talking about macro external forces, we're talking about micro external forces, we're talking about customers, industry forces, trends, we're analyzing the channels and the competitors, just to mention the main types of things you look at into an external analysis. Talking about external, that usually is called PESTLE or PEST or STELE or any kind of other abbreviation of these terms. I'm talking here about these 6 because I wanted to include all of them. Not all of them are always needed in an external analysis, but this part actually is about how is the outside world affecting our business. Are there changes in the political side? For example, if you produce disposable food packaging, then any types of taxes on food packaging or any type of penalties in the disposable stream of food packaging, or increased VAT, value added tax for food packaging, are those types of things that would be influencing your project and your product and should be then mentioned in the external analysis. You can have economic trends and phenomenon and things that are impacting your consumers, which then impact your project and your predictions. You have societal changes, increase in education, changes in the workforce, more women in the workforce, maybe other types of changes that are driving changes that impact your product. And the key is always, will this impact your product? What are the drivers underneath the consumption and the consumer behavior, and how can these broken down to the PESTLE level? We have technological advances. Very often a quantum leap in technological advances has a huge impact on a market and all its players there. Environmental changes, for example, coming back to disposable packaging, if you have a high rate of waste incineration, your waste is burned, such as the Central European countries have, for example Netherlands, Belgium and Germany, then this is maybe not so much of a concern than if you would have dumping and landfilling, because things usually burn quite well, either paper or plastic especially, and that is actually needed partially in the incineration project. Now I'm going maybe too much into detail, but this then would have a different impact than if you would go to maybe the United States or to a very large country where you have a lot of landfill, where petroleum-based products do not decompose it very fast, and that has a different impact. And of course, the big legal parts. How are legal changes, or how is the legal structure impacting your business? These outside external, macro external parts will determine the threats and opportunities that your company is looking at. So this is really the external part, threats and opportunities of the SWOT analysis. Other external things are then the micro or market forces. Micro external forces are things that are in a microcosm of the company, such as, are there sales cycles? Is it very Christmas? Is that Christmas driven business? Like Lego. Lego is making, I don't know, 80% of its revenue in the last quarter of the year. I mean, they are very heavily Christmas oriented. Are they lifestyle subjective? Is there some drivers there? If you do anything with food service or gastronomy, the seasons are very much driving it. How is the summer, and so on. What are the profits? What is the size of the market? How is the market growing? And I show you here some example graphics you could use. Then the attractiveness of the market broken down in profit, size, growth maybe, and your ability to compete, then based on the category of product, or maybe on the competitive, such as maybe category A1, B1, different types of product categories, product families, or maybe on geography if you're talking about a geographical expansion. Yeah. So here then the market size would be actually the bubble size. So it's a three-dimensional graph. It's a bit tricky to do, but you might find a template for that. That is very popular to do. So here you use market forces that are identifying and evaluating markets for targeting. Here it is about finding target markets. Next would be customers. The customers you can analyze in good customers, bad customers. You look into the consumer lifetime value. That is a very popular measure. What is the aggregated, or what is the total value of a customer over its life cycle, over its entire life, not only cycle but lifespan. Then customer satisfaction surveys quickly point to areas of weaknesses. Here are some tips how to go about that. You can also point to areas of opportunities, if competitors are also underserving important needs of the customer. We're looking really for two types of things. We're looking here for unserviced needs, and we're looking for the importance of these unserviced needs of the customer. You can use several different surveying techniques, and we will get into that into class. You can use qualitative, such as interviews and deep interviews of customers. You can use quantitative, which are more feedback form or statistical relevant types of survey techniques, and we can get into that. What is then a good chart to show? To show the average 3-year growth of the customers. I mean, why 3 years is more than 1 or 2, which is too short, but 5 or 6 might already too long, might not be relevant anymore. If you want to be very current, you should have at least 3. It's nice to show maybe 3 to 6, or to show a little bit of a trend. You can show the profitability of the customer segments in contribution margin percentage, or other types of measures, and then the total revenue or profit of this segment then could be the bubble size. Again, a 3D type of graph. It shows where is the thing going, what is the profitability in maybe percentage very quick. So this is not very profitable, this is highly profitable, and then the size of the bubble gives me the dimension of magnitude or impact or importance. I can very quickly look at this customer analysis and see where to focus, and it's very easy to draw conclusions. Another external analysis is the Porter 5-force analysis from competitive strategy, written in the 1980s. That is a very classical and in marketing exercise we often used type of analysis. It is very good for an industry attractiveness evaluation. So on the entire industry, how attractive is it? There is some definite criticism on this type of tool and analysis, that it is not dynamic, it only takes a snapshot. But let's talk what it is first, and then we can get into if you should use it or not. 5-force analysis, basically because you look at entry barriers, and this is economy of scales and expected retaliation. You look at the intensity of the rivalry of the industry, that's the internal thing. You look at the bargaining powers of buyers and the threat of substitute products, as well as the bargaining power of suppliers. I have given you a bigger slide here so you can actually read it, and then you can go through all of these points. I'm not going to go through all of these points here, but I gave them to you so you know what to look at. Let's go just for entry barriers. Should you enter an industry? How important are economies of scale? If there are no economies of scale, if large players do not have significant lower cost than small or new players, then it is easy to enter. So you check every single point. Proprietary product differences, patents in the medical fields, no patents. I mean, if you're in a commodity business, you cannot patent anything basically. So you go point by point and you say there's a high threat for new entrants or low threat, and you sum all of these up, and then you come to a conclusion. Red being a high threat, orange medium, and green a low threat, and that then gives you a total picture of the industry. Buyer concentration. Are you talking to the retail industry and you maybe have 2, 3, 4 players that buy all the products of the retail industry for your product segment? You're very dependent on every single buyer. Therefore, the buyers have high power. They dictate terms. There are going to be yearly conversations about subsidiary costs for marketing activities, money you have to pay to be on the shelf, and all kinds of other things that buyers really force you to do, that makes this industry maybe not so attractive. We're talking about buyer volume, switching costs. Buyer has full information or has no information about the industry. If you talk to consumers, now with the internet, consumers are more empowered, but usually it takes a lot of work for consumers to be educated. An industrial buyer who spent the last 20 years in this industry and has a high amount of money and resources at disposal is usually very sophisticated and has full transparency. It is a difference if you sell something in a retail outlet to one single customer, or if you sell something to the purchaser of IKEA or Walmart. That is a totally different type of conversation. And so on. And you can go through these and you can review this methodology in detail. That's a good methodology to talk about if an industry is attractive, not attractive, or if you should enter it or not, and so on. The next part of the external analysis would be channel and trends. Channel analysis is about how do you get to the market. So you're here, the company, do you sell direct to the market? For example, Amazon via online tools. That is your channel, online sales direct. Other have factory outlets, that's direct sales. Do you sell through dedicated national brokers who then either also sell direct or go through regional smaller outlets who sell then to your customer group? That could be a manufacturer, for example, of napkins here that has a online shop to customers, that has national distributors who distribute to unique niche regional distributors who then distribute to hotel, restaurant, and caterers who all need napkins, obviously. Or you might just distribute to a big national distributor who then distributes to all your customers. So you see there's advantages, disadvantages in all these models. You will have to make determinations, or you will have to critique what is in place today. Maybe a change in the channel strategy gives different profitability, maybe brings access to the market or no access to the market. If you want to enter a new market, it is much faster if you utilize the channel structure that's there than going online, especially if you don't have the budget and the pockets and the competence, all factors for a successful online campaign. The other thing that we want to look at are trends. We always look for patterns and changes in trends. So what are the key drivers of the industry? And here you need to do some interviews, or you need to read up and do some secondary research to find what are the trends. Are any of these key drivers changing? Is anything in the external PESTLE analysis indicating changes or trend changes that then affect your market or industry? One major thing that I see in marketing plans, especially if you talk about new markets or new types of customers or companies like market entry startups, even among the executives in those situations, they might not even be united on what business they are actually in. And before you are having agreed on what business you're in, you cannot even start writing a strategy. And one person, or one obviously guru and well-known author is Derek Abel. Defining the Business is a very old book, a classic. I bought it on Amazon. I think I paid 40 euros, $50, $60 for it, and I don't think it is. I think it's out of print, so you don't get it anymore. As a marketeer, it's a cherished possession that I have. And what Abel did, he used a three-dimensional definition. So let's go into maybe a bigger picture. Also, then, who are our competitors? After you know who you are, maybe you're not even defining yourself like your competitors. Maybe you are, I don't know, you're selling water. Let's say you sell coconut water. Maybe your competitors are not Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, but maybe your competitors is an independent, maybe it's milk, or because you're selling on a lifestyle type of or health type of value proposition, and then you have a totally different competitive set. Yeah. And if you have defined your business, then you can look at what competitors you touch on and what is the evaluation of the competitors. Let's look into defining your business. So you have three different dimensions. You have customer functions. What are actually the customers doing with your product? And here we have the example of imaging, diagnostics. We're talking obviously here hospital. You can do diagnostics. I think they're selling MRIs in this example. That is a machine that takes a picture of your body, an inside picture of your body on very detailed high resolution level. It's better than an X-ray, so you can see, is your joint ruptured, is there damages in your joint, or do you have a tumor in your head, or things like that. So that's very unique. You can do that for therapy. You can actually use that as for treatment. So that's the functionality of the product, and that is impacting your value proposition. Here is your customer groups. Are you talking only hospitals? Are you actually talking about the army? Are you talking about individual medical professionals? That is, MD stands for doctor, basically. Are you talking single doctor offices, or are you talking big hospitals? Then are you talking about CT? Excuse me. Are you talking about, that is a type of diagnostic? Are you talking about ultrasound? Are you talking about nuclear types of technology? Or are you talking about X-ray? And then the combination of all of this then gives you the business. You could talk about only the hospital and offer all functions. You could offer all technologies, again only for the hospital, or you offer all technologies for imaging across every customer group. And if you use these three dimensions, you get some type of overlapping cut that then allows your executive team, your marketing team, and everybody who's involved to be on the same page. It's very important that you define the business in the beginning. For new businesses, if you have an existing business, you need still to define it, but you can probably utilize what is already in place. A nice and fun exercise is always to ask the major stakeholders, such as the executive team or marketing team, marketing director or directors of the business, what is the business you're in, and ask them for customer groups and functionalities and maybe also technologies, and you get totally different answers, even though they're in business for 20 plus years or 5 plus years or such things. Another part of Abel and the theory of Abel is looking at market/product orientation. So we have market on one dimension and product on the other. Here is a single market concentration. You see M1, just one market and one product that is very niche. Then you have maybe your product leadership, and you can already tell by looking at this graph here, we're talking about a company that is specialized on one product line and is unique and has expertise against all other manufacturers because they're focused on one specific product and they're selling it to every market. One example could be you sell a type of drill and you sell that to surgery market, dentists, and maybe even crafts that use your technology. It's a hand drill. This could be you're only selling diamond drill to diamond polishers in the Antwerp diamond district. Then you have a selective specialization. You have several different products that are maybe adjacent in an industry, maybe not adjacent at all, and you sell that to different markets. That is a bit of a fragmentation view. Usually you don't see that too much because there are not so many advantages of scope because you're very fragmented. And the other thing, compared to a product leadership strategy, meaning you have high R&D, you have high innovation, you need to constantly be the innovator, first mover, claiming that product leadership. Here in this type of situation would be a market specialization. You're focusing on a specific market, you're the expert for this market, and you're offering every single product to this market. Coming back to the dental example, you would be the specialist for maybe the medium size dentist unit with 3 chairs, a few assistants, maybe 1 or 2 doctors, and you offering from chairs to lamps to equipment to 3-time delivery per week. You offer everything to this market, while you are not offering something to a huge dentist office with 15 chairs who has maybe a different type of setup, and so on. So you're focused here on a customer group, on a market group, and this is high service, high customization strategy. And you see, I already go ahead and show you how it's all correlated. And then we have a full coverage. This would be a wholesaler who serves maybe the hotel, restaurant, and caterers, and they sell from toilet paper to cleaning kitchen equipment to, I don't know, this could all be non-foods, it could be foods and non-foods. They sell you chicken frozen, they sell you vegetables, but they also sell you the cleaning equipment, they sell you the candles and the table decorations and everything. So you see, by defining the product market orientation, you have a first glance at strategy, and this needs to be aligned. You cannot have a product leadership orientation, but your strategy is service oriented. This is not usually working, and that is already the first acid test of your strategy and marketing plan. The next part, how you can segment and define what business we're in, is using different types of segmentations, and you probably cannot read this. I have here a better view on the headers. We can segment by geography, North America, for example, manufacturing, sales, R&D. We can segment by industry sectors, aerospace, electronics. We can segment by channels, your agent-driven, direct-driven. You can segment by services you provide. You can segment by systems you provide, by compositive products you provide, by basic products you provide, by components that you provide, by enabling technology. And here are really different types of segments and segmentation methodologies to define the business, and also you can define the competition here. I'll give you an example. Now we're talking here different levels of competition, and maybe this is a good example, and this is now getting into part 2. Who are our competitors? Now looking at beverages, you are Diet Pepsi, your direct competitor is Coke, and Right Coca-Cola from the United States. This is really on product form, but you're also competing then on other colas, lemon drinks, lime drinks, fruit flavored colas. That is then on the category of soft drinks. Here is the generic competition of beverages. All these compete against juices and beers. All the soft drinks compete against juices, beers, tea, wine, bottled water, coffee. You see how the juice industry has orange juices, then probably apple juices, banana juices, and so on, but competes here on the beverage level. The beverage industries compete against the other industries that take money out of the pocket, such as food and entertainment. They compete against video rentals, baseball cards, fast food, and ice cream. Now, you might see that you are competing directly, Coke against Diet, Coke against Pepsi, and so on. But actually, when you're standing in front of a movie outlet, you are maybe not competing against the other beverage, but you are competing against popcorn. So here you have really against a totally different, very far removed product and offering, and that is very important to understand in this circumstance. Who are you competing against? This is one way of expressing it. It's a very nice way of showing your competition. But again, coming back to the channels and geographies, you might compete against something totally different. Then, how do you actually evaluate your competitors in a marketing plan? We have primary sources of competitor information. This is first-hand research, primary data. You can talk to your sales force, suppliers, customers, employees, maybe consultants, specialized firms. Actually, that's what we do because we have different access to resources. We're very efficient and very trained in this type of work. We can also take an honest, objective external view that is often better than a subjective internal view of the company. You might not see it or have perception filters. Then that is primary research, that is first-hand research. There's a lot of second-hand research, obviously, for competitors, such as local newspapers. You have maybe internal reports. There are annual reports publicly available, patent filings, 10Ks. That is a type of financial report that's mandatory in the United States. In Europe it's different. Business press, all accessible via your library, information government, electronic databases, news releases, trade associations, promotional literature, internet, trade press is an excellent source usually. Again, consultants, reports they have written. That is secondary data. What is a checklist when you do competitive analysis? A good competitor profile, from easy to more difficult. What should it include? Obviously, the available financial results, product analysis that you can see either in the shelves or on their website or maybe firsthand. Marketing and sales activity, that's very easy because it's very public. Sources of competitive advantage gets a little bit more difficult. That already implies some analysis and interpretation. Importance of activity to the parent holding. Why? If this unit is very, very important to the holding, they're gonna be much more retaliative in their actions. If it's not important, they might not even react very much, and you don't have such a threat, or the industry might be more attractive to you because they are not reacting at all costs and compete against you. Scope of international operations is important. Then key factors, key facts. What's the apparent strategy of your competitor? What are some of the strengths and weaknesses? And then we come about the more hidden things, and that takes a little bit more of an insight, and it's more difficult to analyze. What are the organizational philosophies? What's the personnel policies? What are some of the critical success factors? And how is this company rating against that? So this is a good competitor checklist. Obviously, you will not be able to get all of it for all companies, but I included it here so you have an overview. What does that look like when you actually put it into a report? So here we have a perception map: low price, high price, or high price, low price versus low, high quality. These are shoppers in the retail segment. I think here we have chocolate. This is all about chocolate. Belgium chocolate, high price, high quality. Swiss chocolate, then black and green, I don't know. Then comes Marks and Spencer chocolate, is in UK, so that is a low price, not so low quality. So these are your good buys. This is your luxury brands and more emotional and impressive brands, also good for gifts. And then you have your maybe lower quality but impulse purchases, such as Nestle, Mars, at the category of still high price, but that's why they can charge a high price, because they are in excellent distribution and impulse purchase situations and so on. So Here you use two different dimensions that then can very easily show the overview on the competitors external. Another way to do is by product group. You show if a competitor has a full assortment or a narrow assortment. Are they a full line supplier or a niche supplier? Are they vertically integrated, meaning are they producing, distributing and owning the retail or outlet or sales distribution channels? Maybe they only manufacture but don't distribute. Maybe they manufacture, distribute but don't have the sales force or outside customer contact. Maybe they only trade, and usually you have either a manufacturer that is very niche oriented, which would be here, that is a maybe full line manufacturer. Then you have a trader who is not vertically integrated, so they're not producing, they have a very narrow line. These are niche traders, niche focused companies. And then you have the wholesaler again with the full line, also not virtually integrated. They trade, but they have a full assortment. This would be a wholesaler from the previous example. So you can already make some strategic determination and analysis by looking how are they integrated. That gives you an insight about profitability. That gives you an insight about their ability to retaliate, about the control they have, and so on. Again, how to show competitors. You can show their profitability from the financial reports, and you can show their last year growth, 3 years of growth, and then in the bubble you show the total size, either in profit, EBIT, EBITDA, or in revenue, and that gives you three things. That gives you how impactful are they, how profitable are they, and how fast are they growing. Are they going to be maybe future players? Are they declining? And so on. So these are nice visual representations how to do a competitive analysis. Then this is the summary, and I will stop after the summary and cut this part in several pieces because it's quite extensive. We talked about PESTLE, the macroeconomic forces. We talked about microeconomic forces, sales cycles and so on impacting companies. We talked about trends that you can see in the patterns of all of these things. We talked about how to look at industry attractiveness. We can talk about how customers customer segments, what are their values, how big are they, where are they moving from the external demographic sociological information. You can maybe make some conclusions about the involvement and trends of customers. We talked about channel and distribution, and we talked about competitors, how to visually and also internally talk which competitors are you in. Before that you need to define your business, and then I showed you some ways of representation and how to include in a marketing plan, how to talk about competitors, and I already gave you some hints in how to analyze these things. And that is the end of the part. How to contact me? You can contact me on LinkedIn under Thorsten Strauss. I am part of OpenLink, so you can contact me for free. You can find me on Twitter to read some of my marketing feeds actually of Twitter. I post them there, as well as on LinkedIn. You can contact me at the University of Antwerpen, Thorsten.Strauss at uantwerpen.be, uantwerpen one word, or under Thorsten.Strauss at howtomkt for market, howtomkt.com. What is my background a little bit? Actually, my tagline is I have 3 worlds experience, meaning highlighting the unique background that I have worked as a marketeer in an industrial setting, including on executive level as part of management. I have worked as consultant or work as consultant still under projects, and I work as lecturer. So combining 3 different types of perspectives on marketing and the challenges of marketing, which is I think unique. Then I am German born, educated in the United States, and educated at Copenhagen Business School with an MBA. I worked and lived in the United States for 8 years. I worked and lived in Europe for 20 something years, 22 years. I worked and lived, not lived, but I worked in the Middle East for over a year very extensively, and I also have done some business and experience in Asia, exposure there with some of the studies at Tsinghua University, the Harvard of China, as well as, of course, production units and suppliers in Asia. I was a product manager in the start of my career, and then marketing manager and global marketing director. I led several projects, numerous projects actually. The three most relevant for this class would be a market penetration project, a geographic expansion project, and a global portfolio optimization project. So I'm quite familiar with project planning, and my expertise and core competence is actually strategic planning, strategic process management, and ownership.